I was an amateur.
I didn't always hit it as far as I do today.
And just like you, I was constantly trying to improve.
I chose Titleist then.
For the same reasons I do now.
The new Pro V1 and Pro V1X. Choose the best for your game.
A special guest, Jason Day, here on my left, and we're really grateful, Jason, just for your, you're casual, and that's exactly what this is all about, just getting to know some of the guys and girls here a little bit better. It must be nice just to have that chilled time at home in your home state.
Yeah, it was, I was saying earlier today, I actually went to a New Relic outing, right before this, conference here, and I was just saying, it's great to get back here. It feels like I can walk around, I can actually go down to the cafe or walk around the mall and not get recognized, which is nice. I can feel like a normal human at times, and it's quite nice to be able to just hang out with the guys. And it has been a long time since I've been home. It's been 4 years. 2 of those years I was injured, and the third I had a baby. So I do miss home a lot. And I was talking to you earlier that if I was able to bring my wife over here more often, I think we'd end up having a house here. So I got to try and get her this way soon.
Before we open the floor to a question, you were having a great time out on the course today, just playing 9 holes. But more importantly, I think from someone who doesn't see you, all that often, you're yelling across the fairways to your mates you haven't seen since amateur days or since somewhere in the States or whatever. That's got to be a pretty special feeling to know that they're all still bonded with you.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, is that I see these guys that are familiar faces. Some of them have kicked it on. Some of them are still back home here playing and trying to get to the big stage. But you know what? It's great to see their faces. I know getting back to this event, I know that they, regardless of where you are, what tournament you play or what tour you play on, you're always going to have stiff competition. So I know these guys this is one of the biggest events for some of the guys that are playing this week, and some of the guys that are playing have already experienced an event like this. So I have to come into a tournament like this mentally and physically prepared, knowing that there's going to be guys that are going to play really good golf, and regardless of where you are, you have to play well.
All right, well, let's throw it open to the floor. John Sutherland here is going to take the microphone. Just speak into the microphone, please, guys. And Jason's been very generous here with his time as we go to Rod Murray. Just feel free to ask him anything, which is a great opportunity.
In honour of you coming back to Australia, Jace, an Australian question: what's been the best sledge since you got back here? You've been playing golf with your mates. There must have been some.
The best sledge. I'm just trying to think. If I had Luke down here to be, oh bloody hell! It wasn't. It must have been too good because I don't really remember any. But I do remember taking at least $400 off my mate. So that was probably the best sledge at all, because it was really. We're standing there and he's sitting there. Actually, it was. We're playing a game called Hammer. I was just telling the lads at the golf course today, and we're hammering back and forth with each other. And I think, because I was playing with my buddy David Ludus and I was playing with Luke Reed, my caddy, and it was just good to be able to sit there and watch. I was quiet because in a game like in golf, you understand that you have to be very humble because you can eat your words pretty quick, like the next hole. So I was really quiet and I was just watching these guys go back and forth. And I cannot repeat what was said because obviously it's not repeatable on camera, as I can see a camera over there. So, yeah.
Serious one though. You talked then. I heard Sergio talk last year about the same thing. You come back here, we and golf fans and non-fans of the game expect that you or Jordan will win because you're the highest ranked players in the field. Talk about just how competitive the game really is and how many players in this 156 player field genuinely have a chance.
Yeah. I mean, everyone has a mathematical chance to win the event this week. I mean, that's just, if you're in the event, you have a chance. But statistically speaking, there's a chunk of guys that are going to play well, regardless. Like I said earlier, there's guys that are going to show up and play well, and they may not have had a great year. It's just that one event that they just feel good and everything's turned out for them. So for me and Jordan, that are most likely expected to win, you can't come into an event and just be underprepared, because you know that guys have been preparing and playing and trying to work up to the Australian Open for a long time, for pretty much the whole year. And it's like any other tour. Like I said, there's going to be a handful of guys that are going to come out and play well, so you've got to make sure that you're on top of your game to beat those guys.
Jason, obviously with geography and timing, it takes a bit of effort for you guys to actually come down and play in this tournament.
Yeah.
Adam Scott or a couple of years ago, was quite big on that he needed to have this trophy on his CV at the end of his career. Are you the same? Are you genuinely that kind of motivated about?
Well, so when I first started playing golf, I always talk about Augusta National and the Masters and how I watched Tiger win in '97. But even before that, I was watching the Australian Open and the Summer of Golf for the longest time before I actually started watching, Augusta. Because, obviously, when you're waking up at 4 o'clock, back in, when I was a young kid, I wasn't really waking up that early. But, you're watching the Summer of Golf in Australia. That's all I was watching, was the Australian Open and watching some of these guys win. So, it's big on my to have any collection as trophies. The Stonehaven Cup is huge for me. Knowing that, I honestly believe I think I'll get one day. I just got to make sure that I get to that point where I can give myself the opportunity to, because I have had the opportunity, but really haven't capitalised on that opportunity given in front of me. So I think if I can, play well this week, I've got a good chance of winning.
Jason, can you just summarise your year, how you think it went, and what do you plan to do about it for next year?
Yeah, it's a funny old year, to be honest. So I've had a very disappointing year, but with a kind of a happy twist at the end. I was very, very burnt out at the start of the year. I think it was really typically because of, from 15 and 2016, even though I don't play a lot of golf, there's a lot of demand behind, being number one in the world. I struggled with, trying to give myself time to really understand what it meant to be number one in the world. And, coming into this year, I was severely burnt out, and it was hard for me to, kind of focus out there. And I just said, what I need to do is just focus and work hard. And if I can work hard, then I'll play well. And if I play well, then I'll gain confidence and I'll get the results and I'll get out of this little funk. And that didn't really end up happening. With what happened to my mum and the cancer, and that took it a couple of months, 2 to 3 months to get over for her, and me not wanting to be on the golf course to spend more time with her. And then obviously with what happened between me and Cole, and taking Cole off the bag and putting him more into a coaching role was another distraction that, was tough, because, with everything going on behind the scenes, it's difficult to beat these guys that are best in the world when you don't have any distractions and you're focused and trying to be number one, let alone having a few distractions off the course and not quite being there. When your mind is taken away from the golf course, it's very hard to compete. But at the end of the day, or at the end of this season, I ended up getting into the top 30 in the Tour Champs. Gave myself a chance at possibly winning the FedEx Cup, but it wasn't a lost year. I know that it's very disappointing, because I want to be able to be consistently winning each and every year like I have over the last few years. But I feel like I turned 30 just recently, so I feel like my 30s are going to be a lot better than my 20s.
Hey, Jason, can you drill down a bit into how your mum is now, and B, your relationship with Cole after, and how difficult that conversation was?
Yeah. Okay. So my mum is great. She's upstairs. She's looking after the 2 kids upstairs. Not my kids, my sister's kids. She kind of got bored being over in the States. I actually asked her. I said, "Look, stay here in the States. I'll look after you. You don't have to worry about working anymore." And she didn't want to. She wanted to go back home and she wanted to work. So That's the kind of person that she is, and fingers crossed, all the scans have come back all good and clear. But obviously we got to always maintain and stay on top of the scans, because the first 2 to 3 years are important. With regards to Cole, a lot of people wonder what happened there, what was going on. There was really nothing. I just kind of felt like it was, I think it was time. We weren't communicating the way that we should have on the golf course, thus me getting a little frustrated with him. And I think to make sure that it didn't get any further down the road with regards to getting really frustrated with him and saying a few words that weren't meant to be said, I wanted to take him from the caddy role to the coaching role, to make sure that we preserve that relationship, because he's been with me for 17 years now. That's a long time to be together as a coach and player caddy relationship, and I think everything's going to be great. I think it's actually going to be good for me. I think, to be honest, I think it's going to free me up a little bit more to be able to go out there and play. When I was playing as a coach, I always felt like he was kind of judging to a certain degree. He may not have been, but that's just how I felt. So I felt like I couldn't really go and kind of will it out there. But now it's solely, I'm making the decisions now and making the mistakes myself. And he never made a mistake out there. It was all me, obviously. And, he did a great job caddying. So I think it's just the next chapter moving on. And hopefully, I get back to winning here soon.
Can I follow up and ask you about Luke, because you said he's upstairs,
Yep.
and looks like he'll be on your bag now.
Yep.
You blokes known each other, played the Hills together, I think.
Yep. Yep.
What's that like? What's that relationship like? That dynamic? How different is it?
Yeah, so we roomed together. So he was the guy that gave me the book about Tiger Woods, and that's what spurred me on to practice and prepare and do the right things before tournaments. Luke is a good golfer himself. He doesn't hit it very long, but his short game is off the charts, and his golf IQ is really smart too. So he knows my game inside and out, because we play together, we room together, and he comes out to tournament. He came out to tournaments before, he started caddying for me. So he'd actually go and watch me anyways, and he'd know exactly how I'd hit it. And the big thing for me was when he came onto the bag, I was worried about communicating and making sure that he knew exactly what kind of shots I was going to hit. I have certain few different shots that I like to hit that a lot of people probably don't see out there, or normal caddies don't see, and being able to have him on the bag that is very familiar with that was huge for me.
Can I ask you about, you mentioned he's the guy who gave you the Tiger Woods book.
Yeah.
That book's, that was your inspiration, wasn't
Yeah.
it, when you were a kid?
Yeah.
Does he know how big a party or how influential that book was in you becoming what you are?
Yeah, I think he does, but I'm not sure, because he read it too. So, he was. I got a little bit of my work ethic from Luke. He started waking up at 4:30 in the morning and going to practice well before I did. So I started practicing with him, and it was just kind of me and him out there early mornings. And my game kind of went like this because I started working hard on my short game, and I had the length as well. So, getting back to it, Luke gave me the book about Tiger Woods. I was very much so influenced by that book and influenced by his work ethic as well. So, at that time, I had really good people around me, kind of pushing me forward. Especially as a junior going forward. So that was he's been a bit of a part in the success that I've had as well. Yeah, I think so. I haven't fully gone through with it, but we're working very well together. I kind of wanted to give it to the end of the year to see how it is, and then obviously sit down with the rest of the team and go over it and say, how's it going? Is it feeling good? Is the communication there? Whatnot? So, I think it's going to be going on through to next year. We're trying to get his visa right now, so I better make a decision here pretty quickly.
Jason, I just want to ask you about your impressions of the Oz. You haven't played there for a long time. What do you make of it this morning? And the second part to my question would be, obviously it's one of the longer courses we have here in Australia. We see guys just hit the ball an absolute mile now.
Yeah.
Do we need to start extending golf courses to make them longer? Do we need to peel back technology? What's your thoughts there?
To be honest, I don't even think you'd need to peel back technology. You don't need to make courses longer. You can make short courses really tough. You want to narrow in some rough. You narrow the fairways up. I mean, I think getting back to the Australian Golf Club, I haven't played there since I was, I think, 16. So it's been a while, and I can't remember the changes, what they made. They're just subtle changes, but I think they moved a few greens, but nothing too crazy. Saying that, I played 9 holes with a guy that probably hits the longest, maybe the longest in Australia, is Lincoln Tai, and I play with Dimi Papadatos as well, they're two big fellas that can hit a long way. Now, golf is definitely moving the direction to where you need to hit it long, because it's just explosive power. And, you look at Erin Hills this year, how long it was. It was extremely long golf course. And once again, who won at that golf course? A long hitter. Do we need to make golf courses longer? I don't think so. I think we need to actually kind of peel back a little bit and make golf a lot harder with regards to the strategy of playing that golf course, making greens a lot smaller. I mean, you can look into making a graduated rough where the longer guys, if you want to hit driver, there's more severe rough if you want to take driver on than what it is when you kind of lay up. So that if you have a wedge in your hands and you're hitting out of the rough when you hit driver, it's just as big as a penalty as it would be back if you lay up with and you've got 6 or 7 iron in your hand. So there's certain little things like that I think you can actually change in golf, but I don't think we don't need to make golf courses longer, because they're extremely long. I know that Tiger said something about the golf ball, and we need to do something about technology with that. Regardless of what we do, there's going to be guys that are going to hit on miles anyways, and with how the sport is going, young guys are getting longer and longer and longer. That's just I think the human evolution and the way that science is backed in golf now these days. And you look at any sport, there's so much science into it that we're just trying to get every little millimetre out of everything to be able to get a little bit better or get a little bit longer or stronger. So that would be my recommendation. You look at Hilton Head Island, that's one golf course, that Heritage that we play, that is really, really tight, really short, and really difficult to play. And it's a really short golf course, but there's a lot of defence to it because the greens are small and the fairways are tight.
Just on that, Chase, where do you stand on the notion of one set of rules for pros and one for amateurs, and/or the possibility of a ball for tour pros only?
What was that last bit?
The possibility of having a ball that is for tour use only.
Well, didn't we change the rule on the long putter? And Bernhard Langer is still using long putter and dominating out there as well. I mean, why did we change that rule in the first place? I mean, I don't think there was anyone that was in the top 10 that was a decent putter with the long putter. It was only caught attention because the media started writing about it and everyone started talking about it. If you really wanted to get rid of it, you had to make it the shortest club in your bag. I think with regards to all this stuff, I mean, it's difficult because, we're going to find a way to play better. It's just what we are, and with the rules, that's a difficult one because obviously we got governing bodies that obviously dictate what we do out in the golf course, and we need to abide by those rules. Obviously, I don't think we need to change them. No, I think we just need to slowly just evolve over time and make rules better. Because to be honest, there are a lot of rules in golf, and a lot of people don't understand the rules. I think we need to simplify them, but I don't think there needs to be too different rules for amateur golf and professional golf. Now, if you're getting into the slow play kind of stuff, that's very difficult because a lot of Saturday guys aren't playing for millions of dollars, on a Saturday comp. So you need to take the time. But I think, once again, if you want to really try and change, slow play, you start with the junior level, because once we're long and gone and the juniors learn to play quick, that will change over time.
I also want to just ask you what sort of a schedule we can expect from you. You mentioned feeling a little burnt out the last couple of years. What might you do differently next year and even the year after with the likely change in schedule with the PGA move and condensing of the FedEx Cup playoffs?
Nothing too much differently. I mean, I just needed to... it was like this off year was kind of a good kick in the butt, I would say, to know that, even you can't take things for granted, even if you are at the top of the mountain. You need to keep focusing and trying hard. I mean, the hard thing is like, what do you change to make sure that you don't get burnt out? I think the biggest thing for me was to make sure that I've got time for myself to practice and I've got time for myself to breathe. Because I use this analogy where I'd be standing I'd be in a circle. I'd be standing in the middle, and then I have media over here, my family over here, my agent over here, my coach over here, fans over here, and everyone's trying, and playing tournaments over here. Everyone's trying to pull me in different directions, and it's hard to give time and sacrifice. I mean, you give more time over here, you're sacrificing over here. You got to understand that what you did to get there was hard work and dedication to the craft that you're trying to win at, and that's what got you there in the first place, knowing that if you just focus on playing golf, you'll stay there for a long time. I think I'll handle it a little bit differently with regards to making sure that I have time for myself and learning to say no politely to make sure that I can do it, because there's no use for me if I'm number 50th in the world and it doesn't do me any good and doesn't do Australian golf any good if I'm way back there. I think it does good for Australian golf if I'm up the top of the world rankings and playing well and dominating up there. With regard to my schedule, next year I'm going to start at Torrey Pines. Actually, I said to Dash, I think a buddy was over at my house, and I said to Dash, "Hey, why is Daddy not playing Hawaii?" And he turned around and he goes, "Because you didn't win this year." So I got to do a lot better and start winning this year, so that we can go to Hawaii.
Jason, you've had well publicised injuries over the past couple of years. You mentioned you've just turned 30.
Yeah.
What are you looking at employing to make sure you're still playing at 40?
Yeah, I go back and forth with this one because I sometimes I just feel like I just want to get to 40, and sometimes I feel like I'm like, maybe I can be a Tom Brady and play till I'm 50. Yeah, I was just saying earlier, I mean, Bud knows this. This year my back went out the week before BMW, and I was walking around on one of those little stretches for 2 days. That was after the 2 days I was 2 days in bed and I couldn't walk. So from here down, I had no use of my legs, and it was probably from me to that wall away was the toilet, and it took me 30 minutes to get there. It's not a lifestyle that I actually want to have because of how vicious a golf swing can be. I mean, it's a non-contact sport, but there's a lot of injuries. I mean, I look back at my injuries. I've had an ankle injury. I've got two knee injuries. I've got a hip injury, a sports hernia, a degenerative disc, which is in my back. That's doing my back in. I've got a thumb injury. I've got disc problems in my neck, and I've got vertigo. That's just some of them. And I've got 2 wrist injuries as well. So out of playing golf as a non-contact sport is pretty harsh on the body because you're doing millions and millions and millions of golf swings just one direction. There's just such a big imbalance. And I worked with a guy for a couple of years, got me to number one in the world, and then I started seeing a decline in my performance. I started losing a little bit of distance, so I'm working with a new guy that's out of the UK, trying to stay on top of my back. So the disc problem that I have in my back is always going to be with me. The only way to probably really get rid of it is go in there and have surgery, but I mean, I'm not going to do that because that can obviously hinder the way that I swing or mechanically swing a golf club. I'm not gonna be able to do that, so I just got to stay on top of it. I've got my massage guy here from Canada, so I probably see him every day this week, and when he's on the road, I see him pretty much nearly every day. And then I do about 30 minutes to an hour of corrective stuff, in the mornings or in the afternoons to make sure that I stay on top of my body as well.
Just to follow up on that, you've outlined all of those injuries and what you have to manage to get through a season.
Yeah.
Do you still want to be playing at 40?
That's... I'll stop playing golf the moment that I don't want to improve. The moment I don't want to improve, I'll stop playing golf because there's no use in trying to compete against these guys because they're going to be younger, stronger and faster guys that are going to be better than me when I'm 40. And if I don't want to even improve that, then there's just no use because I won't compete. And I feel like I'm a competitor and I need to always strive to try and win. And if I'm trying to finish top 10, top 20, there's just no use in me playing. So I'll rack them up and just live a happy life. But if I still have the fire and I'm still burning inside and I want to improve and I want to win and I want to try and go back to number one or want to try and accomplish something, I will try and play till I'm 50 or even more. It just depends on how much. It's more so up here than here or any of my injuries. I just want to make sure that I'm mentally strong and ready to compete against these guys.
Jason, you mentioned that you think your best golfer's ahead of you. Knowing you, I won't ask you if you think he'll get back to number one, but when you think he'll get back to number one.
Yeah, I definitely believe I'm going to get back there. Well, it's tough because I know what I did to get there. It's hard because so when I first turned professional, my goal was to get to number one at 22 or 23. I think when I was 23, I was like number 4 or 5 in the world, something like that. And I didn't finally get to number one in the world till 4 or 5 years later. It's very, very difficult to do that, but it's hard to pinpoint when I'm going to get back there because obviously if I go ahead and win this week and then win the first 3 or 4 events then of next year, then you're kind of close to that. You're already back there. I don't want to just get back to number one. I want to get back to number one and stay there for a long time. I think, you look at Greg Norman, for instance. He had a stint at being number one, then he went through a slump, kind of, you wouldn't say it's like I'm going through a slump, but I'm going through like a bit of a plateau in my career right now. And then he got back there, he, kind of re-energized himself and motivated himself to get back to working hard again, and then he stayed there and ended up, I think, 332 weeks. That's what people remember the most on how dominant. You look at guys that have been number one in the world, and look at guys that old school guys that walk the golf course. They know exactly, that guy was number one for 332 weeks. I mean, that's legendary stuff, and that's what I want to be able to do. I want to be able to get back there and know that I've, in my era, at some point in my career or in my era, I dominated over time. And when people look back on me, hopefully they remember that. So I'm not so much more worried about getting back there. I need to focus on getting back there and dominating.